Hi folks, Jack O'Malley, and here we are with our midweek update on a Wednesday. It is our first day back into session in the new year, and we will get back at it. It's quiet. There are some things that we can talk about. I know we've got but I think there'll be a few more details on some things in the weeks to come with school safety things and that sort of thing. We've got a work group working on that and some other things that we can talk about in weeks to come. But I'm just kind of looking at all of the stuff. And again, it's a quiet week legislatively. But one of the things that I thought as I sit here preparing for this is I started doing these updates 2 years ago, during the COVID lockdown, when every day things were changing, people didn't know what was happening, and we had, people were afraid they couldn't ride their motorcycle. Our 4 sheriffs had to come out and say, wait a minute, we're not going to arrest you because there's 2 cars in your driveway and there's only supposed to be 1. Right? There was lots of craziness going on. And so every day I did an update 7 days a week. And I did that for, I don't know, 6 months, right? Maybe 7. Then I went to, it was just Monday through Friday. Then I went to just a couple days a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Then I went to just 2 days a week. Now I'm down to 1. And I think it makes sense. And I'm going to continue to do that. But the reason I bring all this up is it's been a crazy long, almost 2 years. And basically everything I have to talk about today is still COVID related. So I'm going to touch base with you on a few things that are happening, and I'm going to give you my opinion on a couple of things. And I don't think my opinion is going to shock a lot of you, but I'll give it to you anyway. So there was a report out by the Michigan Health Department saying that they think the ongoing COVID-19 surge isn't likely to reach a peak until the end of January or early February. And that we've got hospitalizations going up. Now, let me stop right there for just a minute, just to give you a feel for what COVID, the whole discussion of COVID is. Whether you agree or disagree with any particular topic, in this COVID world, both sides, whatever the topic is, both sides have credible people who argue against it, who say, no, that's not good, or yes, we must do this. Masks are a classic. Fauci even said early on, no masks, that gets thrown back. So no matter where we're at here, no matter what happens, there will be arguments on both sides. So you and I as citizens have to try and take that both side argument and try and make sense out of it. And it's getting harder and harder to do. So I just say that because I can already hear you're wrong about this, because no matter what you say, somebody's going to say you're wrong. And you and I are just trying to figure it out, right? We're trying to navigate a really crappy system and situation we're in. So this, our current surge peaking hopefully by the end of the month, first part of February, and so on and so forth. Right? So there you go. That's a hope. Because we're already seeing, I think South Africa they're saying they peaked. England is saying they appear to be peaking. So, and we're a few weeks behind, everybody's a few weeks behind the last guy. So hopefully that happens. The State Board of Education shot down a statewide mask mandate resolution yesterday after Democratic members split on whether the state board should be adopting a one-size-fits-all recommendation. I repeat, the State Board of Education said no to mask mandates. Okay, please hear that. The move comes the same day that the Department of Health and Human Services director said all K through 12 schools should have what they need in place to keep classes in person. She went on to say, given all the mitigation measures that we know and layering those measures should help schools stay in person. She went on to say, it's really important, I think, that kids are in school in person as much as possible, both for their own development and learning and also for their families. And I agree completely. I understand there's staffing issues. I understand all of that. I am just reading what's happening out there, right? Because again, both sides. yes, no, no, yes. All right? So, schools should have everything they need in place. Now the question is, can they keep staff and all that stuff? Some interesting facts here from Munson Hospital. Again, in the 101st, the largest hospital organization. Spectrum is out of Ludington and Mason County, but Manistee covers the other three counties and other portions of Northwest Michigan. So this is what Munson has as of this week, yesterday. 92 in the hospital. I think their high mark was 136 in their system for COVID. 92, that's good, down. 26 of them are vaccinated. Now, I know that the people who are against vaccine or have problems, see, you're going to vaccine, you can still get it. I don't think anybody's, other than early on when the thought was it was the original virus that would help you. But now, I think anybody who's been following and listening, clearly they're saying, look, the vaccine might not keep you from getting it, but it will lessen your effects. And I think we are seeing that. So 92 in the hospital, 26 are vaccinated, 66 are unvaccinated. ICU patients, 33. 6 are vaccinated, 27 are unvaccinated. And as I read this, no pediatrics, I guess, because at one time they split this out, pediatrics. So I'm assuming no kids right now. And then 10 are on ventilators. Of those 10, 0 of them are people who have been vaccinated. All 10 of them are unvaxxed. I throw that out there just for perspective. Again, I know that people will argue their side, and I get it. Just telling you. Now, here's one that I thought was interesting as you navigate these COVID waters. A Detroit News poll with a plus or minus factor of 4 came up with this. Now, I already know. I've never been polled. Who do they poll? Why do they do this? I get it. But you take it and you follow it and you see and you don't know. Here's the other thing about polls. If I like the results, that poll is dead nuts on. If I don't like the results, or they poll and they're not, it happens all the time. I've been watching people for 50 years and how they react and whatnot, and I'm telling you. So I just throw that out there as kind of a funny observation of polls. If I agree with it, oh man, this is the best poller there ever was. I don't agree with it, it's garbage. So you can decide if this poll is garbage or not. It comes from the Detroit News, a rather conservative-leaning newspaper, just for what it's worth compared to the Free Press, right? If we're trying to give you some kind of a bent. 63% of the people asked are okay with mask mandate for indoor events. 63% said, yeah, we'd be okay wearing a mask indoors. I'm not arguing whether it works or not here, folks. I'm just telling you that they'd be willing to wear a mask for whatever reason. 52% of the people polled said they are against having to prove your vaccination status to gain entry to someplace. 52%. 16%. Now this is interesting because I've always said you're never going to get 100% of nothing. And I always said, I figure it's around a 10% rate. There's going to be, out of 100 people, 10 aren't going to necessarily do it. That's standard. In this poll, how many of you just won't get vaxxed? 16%. So when you throw in all the political folderol, the fatigue of all of this, that I think is probably about right. 16% said, nope, not getting vaccinated. 3%, this is important, this is to be respectful to everybody, 3% said they can't get vaccinated because of medical concerns. So I thought that was interesting. Let's put them in there. A third of parents, so 75% say yes, 25% say no. Well, no, I guess that's a quarter, pardon me. A third would be, 33%. Math. 33% said parents, they will not get their child vaccinated. So 66% said they would. I just throw that out there. I'm not trying to make any kind of points other than to give you a feel for where people are at. I was never polled, Jack. That's not how I feel. I get it. But these polls tend to be fairly close. But anyway, I throw that out there. So I'm going to wrap all this up with something that was discussed on the the comments in past, and I didn't disagree with, but I am going to comment on it. Employees and vaccine. I know the Supreme Court is looking at President Biden's rule for OSHA, 100 employees. I know that's still in the courts. But again, we're at a certain point where, like a year and a half ago, we were saying here in this state, again, for comparison and just looking at this, a year and a half ago, we were saying, Governor, you can't shut down these businesses. You can't tell people what to do. The government can't tell you what to do for these kinds of things. But it happened. So now here we are, and a lot of people are saying, Jack, you and the legislature have to pass rules that say they can't tell me I have to get vaxxed. Well, as I had mentioned in previous updates, court rulings and case law says, yeah, they do. And remember, I'm a guy who signed on to legislation or agreed to legislation, voted for it, that said the state can't have a vax mandate. So it's a yin and a yang that's very tough. But here we are, a story out of California. Now, I've never lived in California, visited it a couple of times. I think it's a beautiful state, but I would never live there because I think they're wackos, So they now are saying that if you are a hospital worker and you have COVID, you still have to come into work. These are the same hospitals that were firing people because they wouldn't get vaccinated and then complained to shortages. And I look at our Michigan health people, who I love them dearly. Our nurses are saints. But we talk about staffing shortages. How many of our hospitals in this state fired or made them quit people who wouldn't get vaxxed, but yet now we have shortages? And when there was no vaccine, these people were fine to continue to work and get the bug. So this whole thing just boggles the mind. We are like in a parallel universe here. I cannot wait to get out of this COVID and get back to some kind of normal, because we got the yeses and the nos and the noses and the yeses. And we've got Fauci and our government that's trying to speak in absolutes when there hasn't been an abso-freaking-lute since like maybe the 4th or 5th week of this whole thing, when nobody knew what was going on. I was like, yeah, let's figure this out. But since then, everything has changed. But yet they speak in absolutes. And that's one of the things that has really hurt the credibility of our governor and our president and our Fauci. They speak in absolutes, and that absolute lasts about 72 hours until something changes. We need to speak cleanly, clearly, plainly to our people and say this is going to change all the time. We're trying to navigate this. We're doing the best we can. But when we have had hospitals, even in this state, force people to quit because they didn't get vaxxed, and then I don't want to hear them complaining about shortages. You can't. You can't. So those are my thoughts on the passing scene. All right. It is a Wednesday. I'll talk to you next week. I'm sure there will be more to talk about, but hopefully this whole COVID thing, I think I speak for many. Let's get out of this. Let's get through this, and it'll be good when it's in our rearview mirror. But until then, stay safe. Let's pray for each other. I haven't said this in a while, but let's stay kind to each other. We have differencing of opinions, but that doesn't mean we have to hate each other. It doesn't mean we have to spit on each other. It means we have difference of opinions, right? And we need to talk and work these things through. Stay safe.